Last of Us Episode 2 spoiler review is here. Let's dive into it. And just as a point of reference, if you missed it, I did a reaction watch along every time before these reviews where I watch along and give my commentary to the episode and just in general reaction. Plus, if you don't know, I'm a massive Last of Us fan. This is my favorite video game of all time and possibly maybe top 3 favorite stories ever told in any sort of medium. So this live action show has been like my most anticipated thing. I love the first episode, and episode 2 was spectacular. What they keep doing is they take moments from the game and somehow make it better. And we're going to talk all about that today. But if you're new here, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button, as well as leave your thoughts down below. I love reading your theories, your thoughts, and what you think might be changed or upcoming in the episodes to come. With that said, let's talk about the cold opening for this week, because last week had that very solid cold opening of these professors in like the 60s talking on this talk show about, you know, if this happens, we're all dead. That's it. We lose. And in the beginning of this, we go to Indonesian, that's the language they spoke, Indonesia, and they get this scientist, and she's looking at the fungal disease and gets completely scared, and they're like, well, what can we do? What vaccine? And the second they said that, she just goes, you can't. Nothing. I've studied this all my life. Bomb everyone. And what a startling and unsettling cold opening. And I'm curious to see if each and every week has a cold opening like that, because the one this week was honestly very, very tough to watch. And it broke my heart, because it is something to really speak about. And it ties in directly into like the opening of this episode. Not directly, but almost. Because after we get the brilliant intro. And also, shout out to Neil Druckmann, who directed this one. He did a phenomenal job specifically bringing the clickers to life. I really love all of that sequence. But it opens up and Ellie wakes up, and I love the framing of that. I saw someone in my live chat put that they had put like the windows around her, which if you've played The Last of Us, of course, the starting menu scene is that window with the light shining in, and that's kind of how it felt. Is like that's the light shining on Ellie, that she is the last sign of hope. She is the light to this world, to what could fix everything. And I really love what they were able to develop right there. But moving from there, it's when they start questioning her. Who are you? What is this? And it's these moments that we got partially in the games, but you get a little bit more of in the show. And it's because you don't get a lot of gameplay in the show. You don't see Joel walking around with a bottle or a brick or dying thousands of times to different runners or clickers. They make every sort of event great. And I like that I get these little moments here and there. And I love that little conversation between them all, and kind of what Tess starts to realize right there is how Ellie is so important, and Joel has not realized that yet. And then they leave, and you see the towers falling on each other, which was beautiful. Of course, they didn't go directly from the game of them going into the towers and having to get through. I'll take it aside. We didn't get that. That's okay. Again, changes are changes. But moving along, you know, they talk about the bomb, how they had bombed Boston to stop the infection from spreading so fast. But moving from there, they get up to the roof, and then Tess has to be pushed up somewhere to go unlock a door. So Joel and Ellie get a little bit of bonding time. And first off, again, I cannot state it enough how perfectly casted every single person is. I'm probably going to say that each and every week and sound like a broken record. But Bella Ramsey is perfect as Ellie, to all the little moments, even leading up to before Joel had to push her up. Before Joel pushed Tess up, is when they were in the hotel, which is another scene from the game. And obviously in the game, Tess was not there yet. But I really love like how Ellie's just being a kid and being fun, and then the dead body and all sorts of things like that. And that goes to the conversation once again of how he's like, pass. They start asking each other back and forth. That is classic Joel and Ellie, and that's the conversational piece that I always thought was so important, was a lot of the optional conversations that you could have with Ellie from just exploring and looking around. And I'm curious, there's one particular thing they do in the game is she has a joke book, and I'm interested to see if we see that joke book take place in this show. Because they already, I was, when she's like, I can't swim, I'm like, oh God, is Joel going to bring the paddle to her? But obviously they could walk through it. So I'm curious to see if they bring that up anymore with the thing of she can't swim. But I love their conversational pieces, even though clearly they are at total odds ends. You can tell that chemistry is right there with them. And of course, once Anna Torv's Tess comes around the corner, opens it, they see a ton of fucking infected. And they start to kind of explain the difference between the spores and the tendrils. This season, they're not doing spores. They said maybe in the future they will, which I actually do think in the future they should, showing maybe how it's evolved. but I do kind of like the tendril idea. I think it's actually unique that, like, that is more dangerous than the spores. Because the fact that we see at the end of this episode, Joel shoots one, which pretty much affects the tendrils underneath it, waking up all the runners that we saw right then in that moment that they were searching over and that they were trying to avoid. Because then they end up going the short way through the museum, and they're like, oh, everyone's dead. Oh, no. We see a dead body that looks very fresh, and the clickers come to life. And just as from the first time you encounter them in the game, it's just as intense right there. The way that Druckmann was able to direct them to move and mannerisms and the makeup was stellar. The sounds were great, and once that one sees them just from the, or not sees them, but hears them from that small little breathing thing of Ellie having like a little panic attack, Joel goes all out and all hell breaks loose. They're all trying to escape and survive, and it was very ferocious and intense. And obviously, if you've played the games, you knew exactly what was probably going to happen here. But what I liked was different here was that Ellie got bit again. That is different than from the game. That changes and helps the audience understand a little bit better how important Ellie is. Because as we move along here, they escape the museum, and Tess hurt her ankle. But right then and there, if you looked on the jacket and right here on her neck, it looked a lot more bloody. Now again, of course, yes, they did kill people. Maybe it splattered on her, but right there, the writing was on the wall. If you played the game, the writing was definitely on the wall, and I was looking for that specifically. And we get the beautiful moment of them crawling out, Ellie walking across, and just her and Joel getting that one-on-one conversation, but Tess kind of going at Joel. And right then and there, I'm like, she definitely got bit in there, and this is it. Like, she thinks that this could be the future. This could be actually real. And I like how she gets on Joel's case about that, but, you know, when it's Joel and Ellie standing right there, it's like one of those beautiful moments in the game. One of them, because there's quite a few. And right here, it was just touching and beautiful. And I love their conversational piece. And then, of course, they go down. Now, this is where I was interested to see what was going to change, because I had heard a little bit of Tess's death changing. And clearly, as they get there, everyone's dead. But it looks like someone got infected. They fought each other. They all died. That is different than in the game. In the game, the Fedra had found them and killed them, and then came back once they heard that they were there. And pretty much Tess is like, I'll hold them off. And if you run away, you see Tess get shot, you see the Fedra coming after you. This is vastly different. And one, it takes away a little bit of the gameplay scenario after that, and then them heading to Bill and Frank, which again is going to be a very important moment. I've heard episode 3 is like arguably the best episode of television in the last 5 years. So I'm very excited to see what they double down on. Apparently next week's is also another hour-and-a-half episode. I feel like we're going to get a lot of development on Bill and Frank. Frank was not even really in the game, just notes and clues and hidden stuff. So I am very, very, very curious to see how they explain that and express that a little bit more. But I love this moment, Tessa's goodbye. While some of it was definitely line for line from the game, her going out party was more badass and emotional than it even was in the game. And you pretty much get the same amount of time as you did with Tess in the game than you did in the show. And just seeing her pour out the gasoline and she says, I never ask you for anything, Joel. This is the one time I'm asking you for something. And that sets Joel off on his journey. And the fact that she's like, take him to Bill and Frank, they'll take her off your hands. And he's like, no, like, they're not going to. And she goes, yes, they will, because you'll convince them. Which obviously by the time we get there, I have a feeling it's not going to be great. We obviously know something's going to happen to where Joel and Ellie are still going to have to progress through their adventure. I don't want to get into that because it is a major spoiler from the game of some of the characters, Bill and Frank, and what their future happens to be. So I'm not going to get into spoilers on that, but next week I'll talk about it and why I think that this was going to happen. But this beautiful moment, and also disgusting moment, of Joel grabbing Ellie and them running out and all the runners busting in and going to that spot, and then the one coming up and making out with Tess and putting the fungal device. It was disgusting. But she gets the lighter, hits it, all of them blows up and dies. And it was heartbreaking. And that final shot of it panning out on Ellie was just beautiful. The score is beautiful. Everything's beautiful. This is what I wanted it to be, and I cannot get enough of the show. I can't wait to hear your guys' thoughts down below in the comment section, so make sure to leave your thoughts down there. Hit that like and subscribe button. And of course, guys, Sundance is going on right now, so if you love indie movies as well, I'm doing tons of reviews. If not, we got tons of blockbusters. I just got invited to see Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumanium early, so we'll be reviewing that. Magic Mike Last Dance early review coming soon, and of course, just more Last of Us content. So thank you so much again for watching this, and of course, until next time, I can't wait for next week. Stay classy.